Well, hello, kia ora to you. Good evening and hello, Chewy.
You are walking a very fine line between the buttery smooth voice and just a ragged, rusty razor blade.
Yes.
Oh, dear,
it's
man. I can
it's
see
lovely
why
to be
you pulled
back.
the pin.
Yeah, it's lovely to be back. It's very strange to take it. It's been very strange actually, because obviously not here last week, although had some pretty amazing content going out. Came back this week, came back from Auckland, had a bit of a tickle, didn't feel that crash hot. It's not COVID for people lots of people messaging me privately going, oh, I hope you get okay. It won't be that bad. It's not COVID. Well, when I say it's not COVID, someone said to me that some of the new variants might get past the rat tests, but I've been to the doctor because I basically have tonsillitis. Doctor said to me, I've got, not this time around, but previous times, you've got tonsillitis. And I'm like, I don't have any fucking tonsils. And they're like, yeah, but where they take the tonsils out, there's basically the stems or the little nubs of them are left over, and those got infected. And on Wednesday morning, obviously we did a show, me and George, on Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, my throat was so sore, and I went, I know this feeling, because when I had it then, it was like horrifically sore, like the worst sore throat I'd ever have, sort of thing. And I phoned my doctor and I said, look, I'm testing negative. According to the rats, it's not COVID. But I reckon it's the same pain, the same sort of feeling as when the stubs of my tonsils were inflamed. Can I please get an appointment? The doctor always leaves sort of 3 or 4 appointments free for the day for like emergency cases and that kind of stuff. But of course, because of COVID, we had to go through all the protocols, and I got stuck in the cow shed out the back, and I went up and they looked at my throat, and she went, yep, really infected, really, really angry, antibiotics, get on them. And then I just went, Wednesday night, I can't do it. And I was very keen to try and do it last night, as you know, and I just went, I just can't. I couldn't hardly talk. And as you can hear in the voice, it's still pretty crappy. I'm not feeling the best, but look, I wanted to come and say g'day. It feels like there's so much to talk about, and I want to talk about Jon Stewart, and I feel like if I left it till Monday, it would be last week's news, and I couldn't. It was like you jumping in on Monday, too. You know, there's just things to talk about. We have to come and talk about things. We've got things to talk about. So
I'm not sticking to the schedule. We're doing it live.
So that's sort of me. If you need to catch short tonight, I'm sure everyone will understand. Sorry you've been out about. Oh, thanks, Simple. Thanks, Si. Yeah, no, look, we're good. We're okay. We're doing it right. Yeah, Jay. No, I don't. Well, I am a little bit cautious about saying I don't like absolutes very much, but I haven't tested positive, and no one in the house has caught it, caught anything off me, and that goes to it being bacterial. I think it's inflamed, and probably what happened is I probably came back from Auckland with a cold, and then that turned into an infection, and now I've got a bacterial infection in my throat, and I think once it's sort of bacterial, it's not really airborne, you know. You can't catch tonsillitis, which is those famous words from a former boarder I had here. But that's what it is. Yeah, it's been pretty rank, and I've been pretty sore. I haven't slept for 2 nights. That seems to be when it's at its angriest and sorest. So I'm a little bit doolally. But we'll get there. I've got strepsils here. I've just taken some codeine before I started. I've got a chicken soup for the soul, actually a chicken soup for the throat here, because if warm syrups go in, it feels a bit better. I've got water here. You know, I've got my bitch over there.
Don't forget the way of our people as well, Pat. Burn it out with whiskey. Scorched earth. Leave no survivors. Salt the earth.
There we go. Then, Paddy's whiskey. Put that down here as well.
It sounds like you have an entire pharmacy there.
Because I've got a bad back, when I go to the doctor, I go, oh yeah, can I have like a box of 10, lots of paracetamol and ibuprofen, please? And so they give me a box like this. It's got 10 whatever you call the things that hold the paracetamol in.
Yeah,
so I got
packs.
updated those. Yeah, blister packs. So upstairs I've got ibuprofen, I've got paracetamol, I've got codeine, I've got where's the other thing? Oh, this thing here, which works really well on the throat. You spray it in. You'll probably see me using that tonight if it gets a bit, a bit whatever. But yeah, that's me. I'm back. We're here. And if I have to do this every now and again, because that's actually quite nice on the throat, so be it. Look at all those people commenting. Thanks, guys. Evening, guys. Good to be back with you. It sounds like I'm empathetic. Now mix it on. Yeah. Well, that's sort of what I did when I came back from the doctors, because I had antibiotics as well, and I hadn't really had any pain relief. So I was like, in one hit, I was like antibiotics, codeine, paracetamol, ibuprofen.
Yeah.
And
now work together, guys. Don't fight.
All right. Hey, there's a couple of things. Look, because we've been off for a few nights here, there's probably a couple of things that we would have talked about earlier in the week, but I really want to talk about them. A couple of them are American stories, and I'm sure many of you know one of the bigger ones about Alex Jones, but also this one to do with Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart in the week has had a really interesting segment. His new show is called The Problem with Jon Stewart. It's Apple TV, and I think from the looks of it, I've seen a few episodes. It's a bit different from from series one. Series one, it was a bit more kind of almost roundtable conversation. It feels like series two is a bit more like the Daily Show, piece to camera on a set sort of thing, and doing interviews with people. He did a show this week. Well, no, we released it, and there was a couple of really interesting things from it. And what it shows, and Chewy, you know this, and for people who don't know about the whole idea around the what is a woman position I have, that question that gets asked on the internet at the moment, and how I think it's really it's a disingenuous question, because there's two parts of it. One is the language, i.e. the definition of the word woman is a language question, and the other one is talking about basically biology. And what's happening at the moment with some people who are trying to use it as a setup question and a gotcha question is they're asking the biological question, and in other words, they're asking a question based on someone's sex using the term woman, because 30, 40 years ago, they were interchangeable, which is they're not now. So they're asking a biological question, and they're trying to get people to answer the language question. So actually, the question is really disingenuous, because people aren't asking it for authentic and real reasons. They're asking it to trap people, because they're going, tell me about the biology. And the answer they're getting is about the language. And they're going, well, no, the answer is, and then they give an answer that's the language, but then they're talking about the biology. So it's actually really disingenuous. And I'll go through that shortly. Remember, it's just my perspective, and probably, I'm the wrong person to offer it, but it's just, sometimes I think, Chewy, when you're sitting in the stands looking down at the game, you get a different perspective. Doesn't mean it's the correct perspective or it's a better perspective, but it's just different. And I've been thinking about this for a long time, actually. And I think these sorts of questions, often come back to language, and often come back to what's happening with the language at the moment. And I'll get into my explanation of that after we've done it all. But let's start with the Jon Stewart conversation. There's really got two parts to the conversation. One of the parts is him talking about gender, and him talking about what it means. And this clip does show that story about the what is a woman question. But in this instance, you can see really clearly what he's talking about is the language of identity. They're not the words he uses, but are the words I'm using. So what he's talking about is how we use the word man, woman, and all the variants of man, woman that there are currently and have always been, and why that makes the question. There's only one definition of woman incredibly disingenuous, because there's not. So are we good to go, Chewy? Is there anything else you want to throw out before we get into it?
No, go for it, man.
So here's Jon Stewart doing some pretty interesting things around this question.
But as we know from history, any moment of progressive visibility will be met with a vicious backlash.
There are two genders.
There are two genders, and everyone knows it.
Ain't but two genders.
That last guy sounded like it's an emergency and we're running out of genders. Everyone, there ain't but two genders. I don't want to have to start rationing genders. The point is clear. The human race is defined by a simple binary, a black and white understanding. There are men and there are women, and never the twain shall meet.
Trump is an alpha male.
Well, okay, yes, there are obviously men who are more man than other men, but that's an aberration.
Beta, gamma.
Okay, there's an entire Greek alphabet, a continuum of masculinity, but that doesn't mean
Cuck, pajama boy, soy boy.
Girly man.
So, in a really clever way, when we talk about language, I'm not even saying Jon Stewart's identifying this for his own show, but what I see in this is he's giving us a real clear definition that the word man, in this instance, he does go on to women though as well, is it's a dictionary definition. There's a dictionary definition, but there's also the way we use it in society, and that's the thing with language. Language is as we define it. And I've said to people before, if I said, Chewy, if I was in New York and I said to someone, what does the word choice mean? People would go, oh, well, it means when you've got things to select from. And I'd go, no, it means good. They'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, well, in New Zealand, the word choice means kapai, means good. Because the way it gets used in society is different from if you looked up the dictionary what the word choice would mean, because it wouldn't mean it means very good. It would mean a selection between more than two items. So he's talking about the way that society is using these words. We'll leave it for that for now, and then we'll come back to what people are asking for, which is not that. So they're asking for people to define something like a word that gets used dozens of different ways in society. So in other words, the way it gets used in society is different from what the dictionary definition is. So if someone would say to me that same example about the word choice, what does it mean? It means good. No, wrong. The dictionary definition says, it's like, actually, I'm not wrong. Because here in New Zealand, we use the word choice, well, certainly my generation does, to mean good. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. It just means the dictionary definition says one thing, and the way the word gets used is something else. Neither are wrong. But if you try and stand on the hill of this is what the dictionary definition says, you're going to look like an ass, and it's disingenuous. So if someone said the question of the what is a woman question, which is going to come up, how does society use that word? That's a very different question from what does the dictionary definition say that is? You know what I'm saying? So this is why these conversations are disingenuous. Do you want to jump in on anything before I hit play again?
No, because I'm still mulling over someone deciding that Trump is an alpha male.
Or is he the girly man? Yeah. All right, we'll keep going then.
I hope the children are out of the room. Clearly, masculinity appears to be on a dimmer, not an on-off switch, but ladies are different.
I was a big tomboy.
These purple-haired angry freaks.
Rabid feminist.
Cat lady.
High rolling bimbos.
Pretty girly girl.
My God, what a cruise line buffet of the gradients in American gender expression. Turns out there's a lot of non-binary shit happening between the binaries. But that hasn't stopped the traditionalists from deploying their newest weapon in the culture war arsenal, the obvious gotcha question.
The real basic question, what is a woman?
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
For all of recorded history, people have known what a woman is.
Yes, all of recorded history. It was simple until like a year ago. The answer to what is a woman has always been the same. It's a woman is a deformity that occurred in the ordinary course of nature. I'm sorry, that's Aristotle. I apologize. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant. I meant a woman is a person who has no legal existence once married. I'm sorry, that's early American coverture law. That's not right. No, throughout history, it's not a gotcha question. A woman is 30 shekels. I'm sorry, that's Leviticus. Unless she's whorish, then a woman is a loaf of bread. That's Proverbs. Yes.
So there you go. Jon Stewart doing a really interesting piece and actually quite clever. Although, I remember Jon Stewart used to talk about the Daily Show, and he always talked to people who would criticize him, and he'd go, we start our conversations from what's funny. So even though they make very good points, and I guess you can speak to this, Chewy, being a stand-up comedian, they start their narrative or their storytelling based on what is funny and what isn't. But there you go, Chewy. You said you hadn't seen that yet. So any thoughts around what you've just seen?
Jon Stewart's a God. Yeah, look, there has been so much in the turf world about, I think everybody would have seen an adult human woman
Female.
or something,
Adult human
female.
female. Yeah, that's a dictionary
Yeah.
definition.
As their whole rallying cry. And I've seen some pushback on adult human chicken. Is another good one that I like. But yeah, it's just they kind of want to just drag you down into this gotcha question that is just so shallow, and they're either going that way or it becomes a really weird question about genitals really quickly. Yeah, it's just they're trying to distill it down into a very simple battleground that they're confident that they can win that discussion on. And it just, as we've found out on this show, any sort of discussion about these issues, you can't distill it down that easily.
Yeah.
There's so much nuance in there. And I think when you do cut it down, any subject, that black and white, you are just jamming people in boxes that they don't fit, and it's usually weaponized to persecute that group that you want to put in the box.
Yeah, and look, I think you're right, and that's why I think that's a disingenuous question coming from certain sectors. And I remember having these conversations with people, and sometimes, and you know this about me, Chewy, because I don't really fit in any box when it comes to political. Sometimes we support a positive policy or idea that comes from the right, even though we sit in the left. And the problem is when you do that sometimes, not that it's a problem necessarily, but then some people can weaponize what you've said to suit their own end. Whereas I would rather approach each conversation and each issue on its merits. It's play each ball on its merits, and if something warrants praise in that instance or criticism in that instance, that doesn't necessarily mean that you agree. Like I always feel a bit awkward when I find myself, and I've heard you say this on this show, agreeing with some abhorrent person who says something once or twice that is sensible and agreeable. But the difference is normally when what kind of thing happens, what I find is that for me personally, I might agree with their position, but it's for very different reasons as to why they're trying to make the point. They're trying to make the point, whatever the point may be, because they're trying to score points and they're trying to weaponize it. And you can see the difference. I can remember, what's her name? There is like I don't know the official term, but sexologist. She's a very well-spoken, very intelligent Canadian woman who has been on, went on to like a Tucker Carlson type show. It might have been what's his name with the white hair from Fox News, who's now doing the Blaze, whatever his name was. And they were talking about trans issues. And she's got some positions and some opinions on that. But within this conversation, she was saying, such and such she. And the host went, "Oh, you call that person a she?" And this person, "Well, yeah, of course. I've got some questions around some things, but that's what they want to be called. So of course you call them a she." And the host was like, "I wouldn't do that." And it's like, so that one of the people wanted to have this conversation. They're an academic based on academic ideas. The other one wanted to have the conversation because they wanted to weaponize it. That's where I think, and the thing that's tough at the moment, unfortunately, I think sometimes we, and I'll put myself in this category, want to have these conversations, and we've experienced it on this podcast, because we want to have the conversations and other people think either we or the people involved with the conversation are just going to weaponize it. And it's an interesting dynamic at the moment that we're in society where conversations, you have to be pretty brave at times to have these tough conversations because you can come up with some flack. You really can.
Yep.
So let's have a look at something else, right? Because I wanted to talk about this, the term woman. And remember, this is coming from a heterosexual male who doesn't have any kind of gender identity issues. So this is just a perspective from me, and there'll be already people out there that say will be saying you shouldn't have this conversation, you're the wrong person. Nah, fuck it. I'm allowed any opinion I want, and I've thought long and hard about some of these things, and you don't have to agree. Jon Stewart has just set up this part talking about, in my opinion, language, how the language of gender is sort of different from the biology of sex. Yeah. And when people at the moment are asking for questions about definitions around gender words, they're trying to tie it to the biology, whereas society is going down a path at the moment where they're trying to tie it to societal issues. right? And I'll give you a really good example. This is just all me talking now. This is not research or anything from anybody else. These are just my thoughts. So you take them with a grain of salt. I could be completely wrong in your opinion, and that's fine. The word gay, right, for a very long time meant happy, meant colorful, meant all these different sorts of words. There was a particular day. Now there is references in history that talk about the 20s and 30s, the word gay coming to terms or coming towards the community of people who loved each other of the same sex. But really in the mid 50s is when it became adopted as homosexual man in particular, right? But there was a day, right, whatever the date was, let's call it June the 14th, which is a fantastic day, by the way, that the whole world used the word gay, meaning happy. Then the next day, a person, 2 people, 10 people use the word gay for a different reason. But still, 99.99999% of people use the word gay to mean happy, enlightened, frivolous. Then a journey happens. And I would still say that journey is still happening today, because there are probably 95-year-olds out there who would still use the word gay to mean happy. I would guess. But we are basically coming to the end of that journey where if it hasn't happened already, it will happen that the word gay will only mean people who are in a non-heterosexual relationship, right? It won't mean happy anymore. That might be a 60-year journey, right? Before the journey started, it only meant happy. At the end of it, it'll only mean people who are not in a non-heterosexual relationship, most commonly used for men who love men, most commonly. But it can be a myriad within that community. That journey, that 50 or 60-year journey about the word gay, we are in that journey right now with gender terms, right?
Yes.
There was a period not long ago when the word woman meant adult human female. We are now in a transitional stage where society is deciding what the word woman means, or any other gender term. We will get to the end of that journey at some stage, and then society will have decided. That's another reason that this "what is a woman" thing is so disingenuous, because it doesn't acknowledge the journey that society is taking these words on. And that's what we're doing. We're taking these words on a journey, and we as a society will decide. The word gay, the day before it became used as same-sex attracted couples or people to start off with, the dictionary definition would not have said same-sex attraction couples. Now it does, right? What that means is at the end of this journey, or as we go through this journey, the word woman in the dictionary may change. The definition of the word woman in the dictionary will probably change. And then all of those people going adult human female won't have a leg to stand on, because we are currently in a journey of this language. Another example is Mount Egmont. For people who don't know what that is, Mount Taranaki. For a long time, Mount Egmont was only Mount Egmont. I can remember when they started to change it to Mount Taranaki. Now pretty much everyone calls it Mount Taranaki. There might be a few stragglers. There'll be a time shortly when it only gets called Mount Taranaki. So the way to think about the "what is a woman" or woman conversation or language is purely language we're talking about, is we are in that transitional journey right now. Those questions are disingenuous because what they're asking for is an absolute. And at the moment in society, we are not in an absolute point. We may get to an absolute point at some stage in the future, like we did kind of with the word gay. But at the moment, it's in transition. So when someone says to you, "what is a woman?" the answer to that is, well, are you talking about what it says in the dictionary? Are you talking about how we use it in society? Are you linking it to sex, which is kind of not what it is, because woman is gender, sex is female? So you explain to me what you're looking for, and then I'll answer your question. And then if someone says, well, what does the word woman in the dictionary mean? You'd go, well, at the moment it says adult human female. If you were to say, how does society use it? We're like, well, actually, a lot of society, many in society, use it to say, if you identify as, then you are. So there's not an answer, because it depends how people are using it and what answers they're looking for.
You can see that really clearly in all of these videos on YouTube, where it is posed as a, hey guys, real quick, easy question. What is a woman? They don't want the depth of thought. They want you're real quick, you're on camera, you're being interviewed in the street, real quick, what is it? Oh, cool. There's our answer. Definitive. It's what we're looking for, because that's where people's minds are at the moment. I love the fact that language, it doesn't matter what language, but let's talk about English, just does not stay the same. That's why there's English, American
Yeah.
English, New
Yeah.
Zealand English. You can't nail that shit down as much as you would love to. You cannot pin language in place. It's why we're not speaking bloody Saxon or Old English. Things change. I saw an amazing little YouTube short actually on where the word woman comes from.
Right.
Because that had been kind of people had come up with theories that it stood for womb man.
Like a man with a
And-
womb.
Yeah, well, man is a person, like mankind. That's
Yep.
all of us, and then some of that have wombs, so that's where womb man comes from, right? It's obvious. It's so obvious. It's wrong, but that's really easy to put on a little thing on Facebook and just harvest likes and get all your turfy mates to agree with it. But this was a guy that was like, no, it's actually completely wrong. I might actually hunt it out because it's quite a good little a YouTube short.
And look, I think a really clear one, not to hark back on something I've already said, but a really easy one for us Kiwis to find out is, what does choice mean? Well, no, that's not what it says in the dictionary, no, but it's how we use it in society. I think that's actually a really clinical definition of gender terms. What does it mean in the dictionary might not be what it means. And I mean, my kids are using slay these days. Have you heard this? Slay. Everything's slay. Everything's slay.
Yeah, slay queen.
So what does the word slay mean? Well, not what it means in the dictionary. That's not how it's getting used. So there's how a word's getting used, and there's what it means in the dictionary, and there's historically what it means. So what they're basically saying, these people are asking these questions, is historically, what did it mean? That's actually what they're asking. They're not actually asking how is it used today. And then they're trying to score points and make fools of people because they're saying, well, I can't answer that question. And they go, well, why not? I mean, to be honest, it goes too far for some people, and some people kind of refuse to offer an opinion. But maybe that's because, we're in the weeds on these kinds of conversations, and we find it easy to kind of go, well, actually, what do you mean by that? Whereas it's actually okay to say, for someone who's not, let's say, a skilled orator, to go, I can't answer that question, I don't know. What they're saying is, it depends how you're using it. That's what they're actually saying. And for people who are looking for absolutes where there are no absolutes, it's then they profess to be foolish.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I was a kid at high school, 14, 15, early to mid 90s, gay was used as a word to describe bad. Yeah. Oh, I've got
that's so gay. Yeah.
After lunch. Oh, mate, that's gay. And I just you don't hear that from kids anymore. It's seen to be just a really shitty old thing to say. Language changes. Society changes. You can't stick a pin in it and go, that's the perfect society. We're just going to pump the brakes and stop here. I may have had to, the first time I saw, a man in a dress, that was a transvestite was the language. We don't use that anymore. And I think it's just a case of, look, if you really want to distill it down into something really simple, which I think these guys want, it's like, do you want to be an asshole to someone, or do you not want to be? It's really easy. Like in my retail job, I can't draw that line. Someone comes up, real easy decision. Address them how they present.
Yeah.
If you don't know, keep it neutral.
Yeah,
don't be an asshole.
Or how they ask you to address them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a problem.
If they correct you, it's not a personal attack.
No.
It's like, oh, sure. It's not a problem. And I love how much these guys, well, I don't love it, obviously, but how much these guys are, as you said, down in the weeds, trying to distill this down. Like, there's a line in the dictionary that says that it's this way, and we're going to build our society based on what the Oxford Dictionary of 1984 decided a woman was. It's just ridiculous. I found that little video, by the way. I checked it up in the.
Yeah, I saw that.
chat.
What about Nick says? What did scucks mean? Scucks, bro.
Oh, scucks. I
Scucks,
mean, that's a
bro.
perfect example. Where was that 10 years ago? I hadn't heard of it.
I noticed that. I noticed that you. In fact, Ludwig did both of these. You highlighted one from Ludwig saying Flintstones theme song. Let's have a gay old time. And he's done another one as well, talking about Enid Blyton used gay time and lashings of ginger beer a lot. So yeah. I mean, I think so. People are going for it now. Look, all the words coming out, swag, bro. I think that what you're saying is really accurate, because I think we can have real and authentic and genuine conversations around some of these issues that I don't fully understand. You don't fully understand. Society's still delving over. But what happens, unfortunately, is people do try to weaponize them. And they try and score points based on what they think is right. And then, unfortunately, at the moment, they're often very good at it, and they can score points on it, and then they can make other people look foolish. Whereas really, not to echo the Prime Minister, but let's just be kind. What does it matter? I mean, I know that there are some conversations, and we can see it in things like, is it FINA, the international swimming body, has just changed some rules around transgender swimming, and New Zealand boxing has just done that sort of thing as well. There are still conversations going on, but this journey of language also involves the journey of this community. And I'm not saying that I know what's best for them, because I'm not a part of it. But what I'm saying is we will get to the end of this journey and all will be revealed. Right. And we will figure it out, and it will take time, and then we'll have answers. And I tell you what, I don't know if I like so much the whole about being on the right side of history saying that you hear, but I think looking back at this period, for the people who are weaponizing this, it will look terrible, as opposed to, like, I kind of want to not to be a radio jock, although I sound like one at the moment. Hey, rather than weaponizing it, working on it, like it's, if we work on it, we'll figure it out. And ultimately, I always think about, and I talk to my kids about this, and when I'm working with businesses, I talk about this. I'm like, what's the outcome that you want? Because sometimes the outcome that you want might mean that you need to, for want of a better word, take a loss right now. Or it might mean that you need to take a step backwards and allow this person to move forward if the outcome is whatever. I think the outcome that I want to see in society is for us all, as much as possible, there's no guarantees in this world, to be safe, to be happy, to be healthy, to be loved, and to love each other. I mean, that's the outcome I want. And yes, there are going to be glitches on the way. There are going to be hurdles on the way. There are going to be things that we need to figure out. There's going to be legislation we need to figure out, all that kind of stuff. But I want to approach these things in a way that kind of looks towards the better, not looks towards the win. I feel like these people who weaponize these things are looking for the win, not the better. They just want to win, no matter what the cost. Remember, we talked about this before, the difference between the right and the left. The left wants to win the correct way, which sometimes is why they lose so much, because they eat their own if they're not doing it the correct way. Whereas the right just wants to win, full stop. They don't care how, any means to an end. We just want to win. The left want to do it correctly, which in and of itself, I'm not saying is necessarily a good thing, but because that's when they turn on each other and attack each other, when one group of the left is not doing as well as they should be, according to the other group of the left. But this is what happens in politics, is that the left want to do everything correctly, and the right just want to do everything, win at all cost versus win the correct way. And that's one of the differences within politics at the moment.
I'm just going to put up a comment from Politikiwi because I think it's quite pertinent. Forget being kind, just be lazy. It takes way less effort to just go, oh yeah, cool, if someone identifies as something, than it does to try and force your ideas of gender on others. Who has the time? I think that's really pertinent. That I think these guys that are trying to weaponize the terms and how people are referred to and treated, they are burning up a lot of time and effort. And I honestly think that the vast majority of people are just like, okay, not for me. Not my choice, but that's fine. Let's everyone carry on with their day.
You do you, boo. You do you.
And I mean, just to tag on to what you said there, Pat, even the most you know, well-meaning person is going to make mistakes.
Of course.
I remember a kind of acquaintance of mine had dropped off the radar for about 6 months. All I knew is that they'd head off to the East Coast. And then they walked into work one day and they were presenting as a woman. And my brain went, okay, a lot of that makes sense. And my fucking lizard brain slammed on the handbrake. And I peppered my conversation with them with so many bros and man and all of this sort of thing that my right thinking brain is just sitting there going, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What are you doing? Oh man, it's been ages since I've seen you. What have you been up to, bro? Oh, you know, and they just laughed at me and they were like, you know what's happening, right? And I was like, I'm painfully aware of what's happening. I don't mean anything by it. And he goes, it's cool. Everybody's getting used to it.
Although in New Zealand, I think bro and mate is a fairly gender neutral term.
Gender neutral term.
I honestly do. Like I think about this sometimes. Like we have a few contributors on here who are, you know, very feminine experts. And I look at my text thread through them and honestly, half of them are, hey bro, or hey mate. It's like, so I think like yeah. So although that's also, we need to be sensitive. I have a transgender friend here in Dunedin and I go, hey man, how are you? And they're like, I'm not a man. And I'm like, oh no, it's I need to be aware that for this person it's not appropriate, and I got to be aware of that. But also, this is the societal thing, right? And maybe because, and this is again way above my pay grade, but maybe because this is a community that currently hasn't become equal footing within society, they're more sensitive to this, and I get that, and I got to do better, and we got to do better to bring them in. And then maybe there'll be a point in time where this particular person or the community or whatever will be more sweet with, you know, hey man, how are you? Because me saying that doesn't mean anything. Although I already know there'll be criticism from some people saying, well, you should get over yourself and get it right. And I'm like, yeah, you probably should. But I'm also sort of a big believer in, as you just said, we all make mistakes, we all learn, and we're all on a journey. Even for those of us who aren't on the journey of personal discovery, we're on a journey because society is going through a journey at the moment, and we all got to either figure this out and live more harmoniously, ignore it and turn into fuckwits who ask those kinds of questions, or I don't know, exit society.
It's super easy. Like, I don't genuinely refer to myself by my full first name. You know,
you don't have a first name, do you?
Thing. No, it's just Chewy.
Yeah, like Prince. Or Diana.
You know, my friends who know me call me Chewy. At work, I go by a shortened version of my.
Your missus calls you fucking Chewy.
Yeah. I dated someone for 5 years who once answered the phone, and my mother was calling, and she says, "Oh, can I speak to Michael?" And she goes, "Sorry, wrong number." She didn't know my actual name for ages.
Wow.
Because all of my friends referred to me as Chewy. But I mean, that's how easy it is, right? Christopher Luxon does not like being referred to as Chris. You know, it is the same, and he has no problem if someone calls him Chris.
Are you sure
correcting
about that?
It? Yes, I am.
Because
very sure.
But isn't his Twitter feed Chris Luxon MP?
Oh, well, that's hilarious because I've seen him in multiple interviews when someone has gone, you know, welcome to the show, Chris Luxon, Christopher.
Really?
He'll just say he'll correct people. Yeah, you can scrub back through some interviews, but he's definitely corrected people before, and that's the same thing. Oh, you've referred to me as something that I don't prefer to be referred to. It's as easy as that. Just don't be a dick about it. End of conversation. We've solved it.
Chris Luxon MP.
Yeah, but just above, it's not Chris, it's Christopher.
Yeah, but whatever.
That's
hey,
it's like he identifies as a Christopher. That's it.
Oh well, according to someone his side, I don't give a fuck what he identifies as. I'll call him what I want. Let's keep going in this conversation. My voice is still working, but I'm going to do this. Hang on. This stuff is the shit. This is the shit for sore throats. I'm doing it right. Because the other thing, and there is more conversation to be had with Jon Stewart, and he's talking gender. Now, let me be very clear to you from my perspective. Chewy, disagree with me if you want. There are lots of conversations, and I think there are some, not 50-50, I agree with Jon Stewart, but there are some conversations about medical care around gender issues in children, which are still ongoing, right? So I don't really want to get into debate whether he's right or he's wrong here. But what I do love about this part of the conversation is it's a beautiful display of the hypocrisy, and I'll just say within politics. It happens to be on the right, but I'll say within politics, where political figures, especially in America, will say no to something, but if you do the equal and opposite, they're happy to have it. It's quite well done, and it's actually what sort of real journalism is. And a lot of the commentary around this clip, which is from the same show, but later on, a lot of the commentary from this clip, it looks like he's about to give someone a kiss, doesn't it? Was actually, this is what journalism should be about. So let's have a listen to this. He's talking to Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge, and they're talking about not giving children the gender affirming care that they need. Now, as I said, I do think there's still a debate to be had around gender affirming care. I think that some of the things pointed out in this, other countries don't adhere to, other Western countries. So there is still a conversation there. But the big part about this, which I found quite gratifying from Jon Stewart, was holding a politician's feet to the fire and going, but doesn't that mean X, Y, Z, equal and opposite? And they say, no. Anyway, I'll play it for you. Here we go.
Why would the state of Arkansas step in to override parents, physicians, psychiatrists, endocrinologists who have developed guidelines? Why would you override those guidelines?
Well, I think it's important that all of those physicians, all of those experts, for every single one of them, there's an expert that says we don't need to allow children to be able to take those medications. That there are many instances where...
But you know that's not true. You know it's not for everyone. There's one. These are the established...
Well, I don't know that's not true. I don't know that...
Then why would you pass a law then if you don't know that that's true?
Well, I know that there are doctors and that we had plenty of people come and testify before our legislature.
I mean, just put into any other context, the speed limit's going to rise to 130 kilometers an hour, and the person changing the speed limit goes, well, we don't know if it's going to be safe or not. Then why would you change the fucking law? You put any other context in there.
Grim politicians just running on the vibe of the thing.
Yeah, we'll keep going.
Who said that we have 98% of the young people who have gender dysphoria.
Right.
I love this.
They are able to
more than life itself.
Move past that, and once they have the help that they need, no longer suffer from gender dysphoria. 98% without that medical treatment.
That's an incredibly made up figure. That doesn't comport with any of the studies or documentation that exists from these medical organizations. What medical association are you talking about of these doctors?
Well, we have all of that in our legislative history, and we'll be glad to provide that to you. I don't have the name of that off the top of my head. I know it's something that...
You don't have the name of the organization that
off
you're
the
getting
top
that
of my head.
Oh, okay.
But yes, we have all of that cited in all of our briefs.
You're suggesting that protecting children means overriding the recommendations of the American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society.
We don't have enough data. We don't have enough to show that these drugs are effective and that these children are better off, and that we should encourage these.
Or it's not enough for you. Let me try and flip it a different way and see if maybe this can help.
God, he's good at
in
this.
Arkansas.
Yeah, he's fucking amazing.
If you have pediatric cancer, and obviously we all want to protect children, I think we established that earlier. Whose guidelines do you follow for pediatric cancer?
Well, I think if my child, who is 4, if I was faced with that terrible decision, then I would be speaking to my doctor. And if my doctor recommended something that I disagreed with, then I would get a second opinion. And that's what I believe that these parents need to make sure that they're encouraged to get numerous opinions when they're talking about. And
Jon Stewart points this out, this point that I'm about to make out, but he doesn't point it out very clearly, just because people may not know the law in Arkansas. It's banning this.
Yeah.
So there is
They
actually
can't get
no
a second
opportunity.
opinion. They
No,
can't get
that's
any opinion.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Now, Jon Stewart says this, but I think he says this thinking this is an American audience watching it. So the banning of this in Arkansas means you can't get a second opinion. You can't get any opinion. So just so we're really clear, that's about to come, but that's when he says you can't. That's not what the legislation says. That's what he's referencing.
An irreversible step.
You're not
Their
letting
child's-
them. The state's not saying get another opinion. What they're saying is you can't. What you're actually saying
No,
is
that's
the opposite.
actually not at all what the state said. The state simply said that you cannot perform these procedures. And so parents should get an
Yeah, you can't perform the procedure. So where do you get an opinion or a second opinion from? Do you think there's opinions within Arkansas that are going to be like, yep, you should do this. Now you can fuck off because we're not allowed? It's like, that's the point. Now, again, look, there is a debate to be had about this care. We're not getting to that debate tonight. What I'm wanting to do is show you, as I think Carl said, about what I would classify as a journalist breaking a robot brain. She started to do a blue screen loop in her brain. I was shocked that voice didn't start just skipping like a scratch CD. Old stuff. CD.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. I'm going to hit play.
Just annihilate, like her notes just turned to dust in her hands.
Yeah.
another opinion that and children should want to have another
But
opinion.
that's not.
Because again, these are 9, 10, 11,
So if your
12-year-olds.
child is suffering from pediatric cancer and the state comes in and says to you, they recommend chemotherapy, but we're not going to let you do that. You can't. We think you should get a different opinion. And here's the organization we think you should get the opinion from. They're not the mainstream, but they're an organization. So that's who you have to be treated by.
That'll do. You get the gist. And that's the point. The other thing about this, the American right is so about, small government, less invasive, yada, yada, yada. But that's just a perfect example. Whatever people think about the healthcare and it's in and of itself, that the American right, the Republicans in particular, are actually putting themselves between the medical advice and the citizen. So it couldn't be any more invasive. It couldn't be any more quote unquote big government than basically saying, as Stuart was just saying there, we're not going to allow you to do this. You should listen to these authorized voices that we've said are okay to be listened to.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating.
I've also seen, like, just when you talk about common sense arguments, and that's a loaded term in itself, but some of these guys will say something that sounds on its first pass, maybe there's some reason to think about this, right? Like maybe these kids shouldn't be making up their mind until they're old enough, which might be over 18, say, to make their own medical decisions. In a lot of these cases, they're talking about puberty blockers. So you can't make up your mind about going through puberty until you've done it.
You can't make up your mind about going through puberty until you've done it.
Yeah. So like, they want to stop kids accessing any of these things. We don't want any of like these puberty blockers. As anyone knows, puberty can kick in anywhere between 10 and fucking 14.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge spread, right? But if there's any sort of questions of gender identity or the need to transition or the want to transition later on, then a puberty blocker just kind of postpones everything, right? And you don't have this thing that you get this huge rush of male hormones at a really specific time, or female hormones at a very specific time. You take puberty blockers, it just stops everything.
Well, this is one of the debatable conversations, and this is why I don't want to get into it, because there are many reputable people that say puberty blockers aren't quite as simple as turn on, turn off. But,
look, I am definitely not an expert. It's just some of the conversations that I've seen. So,
and the sources I reference for this, and I've done a podcast with a couple of academics from Otago University. Not in fact, they're both left wing, but they're just pure facts and figures and stats. So this is what I'm saying. There is still some information that is going on, but I think this journey that we talked about before, by the end of it, we will know a lot more. Look, I think that this conversation will be figured out as we go on. And the one point that I think that the Attorney General was probably right, was the data. We don't have a lot of data at the moment because it's not something that's been going on for 50 years in any great intensity, and we will in 10, 15, 20 years from now, and then there'll be probably clearer guidelines and clearer understanding, and that will come to it. We're also moving towards, I mean, they've been saying for 50 years that we're moving towards a more, as you can tell by us looking so androgynous, an androgynous society for future generations, where those sort of, the way someone presents and looks and stuff, it will be more interchangeable. It just seems to be the way the world is going as well. And maybe in 100 years from now or 50 years from now, this whole kind of what are you at school, a boy or a girl, won't even be a question, because people just present however they want to present, and it's not even maybe boy and girl. Maybe those phrases won't be a part of society in 100 years when we get to the end of this journey. We just don't know. The point I loved about what Jon Stewart did was just holding their feet to the fire. And that's why I was very clear that there is still a conversation to be had. Some of the criticism that Jon Stewart's got from this piece was, he says a bit later on, which we're not going to play, he says a bit later on about how the medical fraternity, my word, not his, are getting better mental health outcomes in all areas, the ones that we're following. That's challengeable as well. But the other thing is he doesn't cite his source either. So, I would want to see what his source was for that. But some of the criticisms that Jon Stewart's getting is that he's citing sources that are the people who are making money off kids transitioning. Now, the reason that's a null and void argument is in countries like New Zealand or Australia or the UK, where people aren't making money off this because it's a public health system, it's the same kind of advice.
Yeah.
So yes, so in other words, of course people are making money off it in America because America is a for-profit medical society. So it's not I personally don't think it's a valid criticism of the point he's making, because let's swap it to Australia and see what the advice is there. It might not be exactly the same, but it's similar sort of advice within the medical fraternities. So yeah, look, I just think Jon Stewart's great. I kind of one of those people who wished he'd never left the Daily Show, and I just see Trevor. Did you know that Trevor Noah's announced he's leaving the Daily Show as well? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that next. Trevor just seems to be getting his stride. I haven't really watched a lot since Jon Stewart left, to be honest. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And he was an incredibly important and trusted voice for quite a long time, for my generation, especially. The generation.
He's done some phenomenal work, really, really good. For someone to have come through comedy and acting and that sort of thing, and just to be a really, as we saw there, a very good interviewer.
Yeah.
Just very, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty. Anything in there we want to mention from the text while I'm loading up the next story?
Yep. Carl here says the American right always needs an enemy. Trans people are just getting their turn in the spotlight, especially because there aren't enough in positions of power to fight back effectively.
Yep.
And again, that comes back to what we've been saying about the left. Is sometimes you don't want to shoo potential allies out of your tent.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hey, can I just say as well, thanks for joining us tonight, guys. I was, I to be honest, I really missed it. I really missed not being here last week, even though I did enjoy my time on in Auckland. And I've really, the last 2 nights, although I've been feeling like utter crap, I was just thinking I just want to go hang out with my friends, and talk shit at night time. So
I tell you what, Pat, we got a special treat for them in the next segment, don't we? Absolute reward for sticking with us.
Let's do something as well. Seeing it's been nice to hang out with our friends. Hang on, let me just do this. I'm still trying to remember how to do this whole friggin' thing. I just do that. Oh, there we go. Let's do this as well. If anyone wants to hang out with us for a little bit, we are just putting the Discord into the chat right now. Why don't you jump in and come and have a chat? You're welcome to. It's quite a good topic to talk about tonight. I mean, I know I announced earlier in the week, and I haven't said where it is. Oh, you were here, weren't you? Where it is, but I'm going to be doing some work with a radio station that's going to be involved around some talk topics, and this is going to be fun. And I've just put into the chat. If you're watching us on Facebook, you'll have to go to YouTube because it's in the YouTube one. The Discord, if anyone wants to come and have a chat with us, you can jump into Discord and drag yourself into the waiting room, and maybe after the next story, before we talk about Alex Jones and the gay frogs. What is it? Something turning the frogs gay? Water's turning the frogs gay? Turning the frogs gay.
Oh,
gosh, that hurt.
when he was doing just funny funny conspiracies rather than being absolute anus.
So you're welcome to jump into Discord if you want. I think we mean I was funny. That's our first story, and it's 5 to fucking 11, Chewy. So it's what we do. Okay, let's have a look at. I'll hold my thoughts. Let's just jump into the story about Barbara Kuriger.
This is your reward, people.
This is not the reward. This is the news story. We'll do the reward shortly.
Oh yeah, no, it's a news story. Yeah, that's right.
This is National Party MP who's just I'm going to say been sacked by Mr. Luxon. I guess they're saying she stepped down from her portfolios. Interesting story. I think that I'll talk more about it in a second. Let's just get the story from who are we watching? One News.
Keen to take a hands-on approach, Barbara Kuriger made plenty of noise in her portfolio, including in her support of the groundswell protests.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But it's a family spat with the Agriculture Ministry that's cost the MP her roles.
Last night, I accepted Taranaki King Country MP Barbara Kuriger's resignation from her portfolio.
I was going to play his speech that he made, but honestly, it was 60 seconds. I mean, the scrum around him went for another 10 minutes, but he really didn't. He really just gave out the facts, which is pretty much summarized here anyway. So we won't play his actual speech live from today, but yeah, you get the gist of it here anyway.
Portfolios of agriculture, biosecurity and food safety. I've become aware that Barbara and her family are involved in a personal dispute with the Ministry of Primary Industries that is ongoing.
In 2018, her husband and son appeared in court on charges of animal cruelty on the farm.
I can confirm that I've kept National Party leadership fully informed throughout the investigation.
While her husband's charges were dropped, the MP's son was later convicted, but the family's still embroiled in a dispute with MPI, while Kuriger's been National's agriculture spokesperson.
She failed to recognise the conflict, failed to put steps in place to deal with it. It was a serious lapse of judgment.
Kurige wasn't at her Te Awamutu electorate office today, but said in a statement the dispute created a blurred line with her portfolio, and in order to continue to support her family, she was stepping aside.
So this is the reason I'm saying that Luxon fired her. I mean, she stepped aside. If you don't step aside, I'm going to fire you. So she stepped aside because this blurred line was there a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever, and it's only reason that this has happened now is because Luxon got told about it. So that's actually not necessarily criticism because everyone would do it, but let's just be clear that this blurred line was always there ever since the conflict of interest was there. So yeah, let's just also not kind of beat around the bush about this I'm altruistically stepping aside because there's a blurred. Yeah, so there was a fucking blurred line last week as well. Chill out, mate. Chill out, bro.
Accepting there had been a conflict of interest, which she should have recognised and managed sooner. Constituents today reflecting on the news.
Look, I'm really disappointed. I think she's really good.
She's actually quite straight up, actually. Farming lady herself.
I'm very sad about that.
Christopher Luxon says his office became aware about a week ago after it was raised by a third party. Despite that, the MP continued in her duties earlier this week.
If I'd known, earlier, that would have been a different story. But the reality is I became fully aware in the conversation with her last night about the extent of her involvement and also the ongoing nature of that dispute.
MPIs refusing to comment as National deflects questions about which email she used at the time.
Regardless of whether she's using her email, what email address she's using, the big substantive issue here is there's no doubt about it, there is a major conflict of interest.
A conflict that's created yet another headache for the opposition.
So you just said it, Chewy, and really, because to be honest, really, it feels to me, and look, tell me if I'm wrong. People watching, tell me if I'm wrong. It does feel a little bit like nothing to see here. Someone who has a conflict of interest resigns from portfolios, job done. The big conversation for me is Sam Uffindell. Leader didn't know anything. Whatever her name is. Barbara Kuriger. Leader didn't know anything. So to me, this seems to be more about a systemic situation, how National is running and about how for whether it's bad management, whatever it is. But, I think, was it Helen Clark who used to talk about no surprises? No surprises, please. No surprise. Never have any surprises. And it just seems that, the more a leader gets a surprise, the less it seems that this party, whichever one it is functioning well. So it seems to point towards a poorly functioning party, as opposed to the size of the issue. I mean, yeah, that's that. What do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, that clip where she's talking about the initial thing, and I've kept the party completely apprised of what's going on, was from 2018. So
Yeah.
that's been bubbling along that long, and Luxon's just worked it out now. Like, did he not come in as leader and go, well, what potential issues must I look at?
Yeah,
You know, we've got some new MPs and there's some allegations there, and we've got this thing that has been bubbling away, and we're still going to give her agriculture.
Yeah, look, Nick has said something that we don't have all the information yet, but Nick has said as well, if there is any, well, then she's not a minister because they're in opposition, there could be a story here. So I guess I'd like to make that statement about nothing to see here, but leave it open-ended, because as more presents itself, there may be more to see here. If someone's gone in and tried to use their position of authority and position of power to influence a government body, then, you know, we that is definitely something to see here, and that will come out over the next few days.
So they say it came from a oh god, it's the video. They say the allegation came from a third party. Would that be someone from the Labour Party after the other conflict of interest thing that we were talking about a few weeks back?
He was pretty clear not to say what it was. He was also, but this is Luxon, sorry. He was also pretty clear not to explain what the conflict was, basically because that was between, is it MBIE, whichever organisation is, and her. But that's actually, as we always say, the devil's in the detail, yeah? Because that'll be what it is. Now, this is Chewy's favourite clip.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Oh, it's the eye contact. Why?
No.
Why is she doing it like that? I don't want that milk.
You don't like that look?
Just tip it out. Just tip it out.
Ro wants to know, is the cow grinning?
Oh, Christ. This single video could completely ruin our dairy industry.
I just don't quite understand. I mean, obviously, it's somebody who's trying. This is for social media, is that kind of. This is from a comedian's page, isn't it? Mel Bracewell. In light of Barbara Kuriger resigning her portfolios, I'd like to bring back one of the greatest pieces of content uploaded to her Facebook, with just a caption about this video in 2017. Mel also said the video had 1,000 views, 15 likes, all of them were her.
Yeah, that is certainly something. Aren't we glad that political billboards, like just hoardings, that they haven't worked out a way to print a moving image?
Well,
that would be her, her campaign hoarding.
Once we get our t-shirt company up and running, that could be our next t-shirt, bro.
Gifts on t-shirts. That's in there. Oh, but yeah, again, it comes back to the fact that no matter whether, like, I can see what they're doing here is I've become aware of a problem. I've made a decision. I've solved the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I am a decisive leader. But it doesn't show this. This just shows someone that wasn't aware of any potential issues in his caucus, from people that had very, very influential portfolios and needed to be really on top of their game. And it's another issue. He doesn't know what's going on.
I'd like to know more about the details. As I said before, it's a bit like we heard about Uffindell. You know, the National Party kept going on about, you know, Uffindell had declared this. They always say this was declared, this was declared, but they never said what this was.
Yeah.
Now this was declared. Did that mean, yes, Uffindell admitted he was a bit of a bully at school, or did Uffindell say, yeah, me and some of our mates got some bed legs and use them on a junior in school? Because I feel pretty sure that he wouldn't have this wouldn't have been, we assaulted someone that ever happened in the street, there'd be jail time. I feel pretty sure it wasn't that. So what is this in this instance? Like, what is the dispute? What's it about? And what has happened with letterhead, you know, positions of power, that kind of stuff as well. And I'm not asking that with any accusations. I'm interested to have a chat about and find out more about what happened, and I'm sure it will come out more.
Yeah, and even just this, as Paul says here, it was dumb to give her that portfolio after all the animal cruelty that she's basically 1 degree of separation away from. That was just never going to play well. Like, I don't care how across she is. You just go, well, you can't have this until we resolve the other thing. So you've got to be about as far away from that as possible. Your family is radioactive.
I do think, though, and we've talked about this before, the Naya Mahuta situation with her husband getting money, I do think that they should just make a ruling across the board. This is different because this is about a complaint that conflicts of interest don't touch portfolios. They just don't. So and the Naya Mahuta one, I think, was a pretty easy one, that if you're in the bed with someone, if you share a bank account with someone and you're a minister of the crown, your bank account should not receive money from government institutions, because there's just such a potential for conflict here. You know, your partner is getting money from something that you have an inordinate amount of power in, then you should just not. You should they should just put it in the books. You can't be a minister and have your husband or wife be getting contracts from the government. You just can't. It either means you're not a minister, or it means that that you don't take those contracts. It's pretty simple. And if it means that your company makes tens of millions of dollars a year, then maybe you can't be an MP. Maybe you have to make that choice. We all make hard choices. Maybe you have to make that one. Hey, I was going to say, Politikiwi was in the chat. Should we grab him in and see what he's got to say?
Yeah, sure thing.
Let's do this. Oh gosh, I dragged that down, I think. Hang on, Politikiwi. I'm a moron, remember. There we go. Are you there, bro? Politikiwi.
Yo, how we going?
Good,
Sorry,
man.
bit of a delay. Got the stream open.
That's
and
right,
I was
man.
here in a second.
What's up? We can
Hey,
hear you.
buddy.
Yo, well, I'm just really interested in just, how do I put it, the framing of this news article and the wider political discussions that have been going on recently with National, right?
Yeah.
Because if we jump on stuff and you look over at some of the political coverage, we've got this article. Yes, of course, we're looking at this conflict of interest and whatnot, but we're also having just neatly packed alongside. Oh, by the way, National's screeching ahead into the polls. Now we're actually looking at a scenario where it's supposedly more likely than not that we have a National ACT coalition, which is really amusing since barely earlier this week, the ACT party drops a supposed bottom line, bottom line being we're going to have this referendum question. That's a bottom line for a party. That's a coalition deal breaker. That's what a bottom line is. National won't have a bar of it. If it was a left-wing party, the news would be all there. It's dead in the water, right? If you have one party has a bottom line, the other party says no, well, you just don't have a coalition. That's the whole point of bottom lines, right? But I mean, I suppose the cynic will say, well, one of them will break eventually, especially as we get closer to election day. But it's interesting how the sort of posturing we get. You know, Luxon gets to turn around and say, I'm making decisive action on a political issue that's existed since 2018 that I could have only avoided by having my head in the sand as soon as I took office.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they have the only coalition partner in Parliament is saying, give us this term or else, with National paying it no mind, and they're still the poll favourite looking to form a government in the next election.
Yeah.
I do wonder if a part of that obviously is, the public aren't up to date or informed with what's going on in the inner workings. And I know that the ACT story is not an inner workings like it was hidden, but, people just go red or blue, red or blue, red or blue, red or blue. And if they want a bit more, if they want a dark blue or a, let's say, far right blue, they go ACT,
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I'm a bit biased. Of course, I'm a Greenie. And of course, if you ever go campaigning for the Greenies, what you'll often get is you come to election day and people are going, oh, I like the Greens, but I want to make sure Labour gets across the line. I want to make sure Labour forms a government. So, right, the Greens are always going to go with Labour. I'll eat my hat if the Greens side with the National Party. So if you're voting ACT, you're getting National. If you're voting Green, you're getting Labour. But often how the coverage and the sort of political climate we've got, it's again red or blue, right?
Yeah.
So it's always going to be, which is wild because this might be the one time where the shoe's on the other foot. Where if you vote ACT ACT refuses to form a government because they're going to take this. They're going to take a very strong ideological line, which would admittedly be rare for ACT. But if they were to do it, and they were going to do it over this bloody referendum, that could freeze a government, couldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think we probably. No, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say we all know. I think the reality is they will either get what they want in some minor form, like a non-binding referendum on something, whatever the fuck that means, or they'll drop it and they'll play that, it's better to be inside the tent rather than outside throwing stones. So we've made some compromises. So it says bottom line now. Bottom line's probably what they think is going to attract them more voters at the moment. We all know that once negotiation comes, the day after the election or the week after the election, these bottom lines pretty quickly go away because people want the baubles of office, as Mr. Peters once said.
Absolutely. I just find it astonishing they get to have their cake and eat it too in terms of media narrative, because you get to benefit from this is our hard line. We're thump your chest, we're committed. But then, of course, quote unquote, everyone knows once election day comes to pass and everyone's sitting behind these tables forming deals, then they get to, muddy the waters a bit. But I don't know.
Hey,
just a cynical lefty.
Yeah,
griping about the right.
Before we get rid of your cynical lefty, we're going to talk. We're going to wrap up the show shortly with Alex Jones. You got any thoughts on that before we wrap into it?
Oh no, I'll let that story speak for themselves. Any snide comments I can make, I'm just going to enjoy this. You have a good one, lads.
All right, dude. Thanks for that.
Thanks,
we
buddy.
Appreciate it. If you want to get involved, if you want to come and have a chat, you're welcome to. You just head on to our Discord. The link is in the chat somewhere there. I put it up there. You can put it up again, bro, if you can see it. And all you need to do is slide yourself into. Oh, what did I do there? Hang on. Slide yourself into the waiting room. And if you slide yourself into the waiting room, we will find you somehow. If I can ever figure that out again. Right, drag things around.
We still might have to deal with the reanimated potential corpse of Winston Churchill roaring back and Winston Peters.
Man, Winston Churchill would be an impressive.
Yeah. Well, he wishes he was Winston Churchill. I saw a terrifying article that said we may have to deal with a resurgent New Zealand first next year. No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it's a strange one, isn't it? Because the thing about Mr. Peters is that I don't know, would he be useful to the left or not? Because National hate him,
right? They hate him now for putting Labour in. He's responsible for that, right? But then, basically, as soon as Labour was into a second term, he fucking hated their guts. He was out talking to Camp COVID and carrying on like a fucking idiot. I wish both parties would treat Winston like he was radioactive.
I think I think
chaos machine.
I think you could then genuinely get a hung parliament though if that was the case.
Oh, it's worth the price.
You reckon? All right,
it's absolutely worth it.
Let's rip into our kind of last story of the day. I watched this actually. I don't think I saw it live, but I saw it probably within a half hour of it coming out. Most people have heard the situation with Alex Jones. If you haven't, I don't know where you've been, but long story short, Sandy Hook elementary school shooting. He was very much, and I think the thing that's most important, as I understand it, is he knew he was bullshitting, but he was doing it to make money, and in doing so, put people at risk and defamed them and made their lives a misery, and he profited off it. That was a big part of it. So several weeks ago, there was like a $45 million case settled against him. And then this case came up, and this is like the class action lawsuit. And I'm sure you've heard the number. And if you haven't, you can probably read it if you're watching. He got found guilty. Is that the right word? He got had up for nearly $1 billion in costs against some of these families. I'm going to play this. We're not going to play all of it.
A big B.
That is a big B. So just have a listen to maybe the first couple of how it's been delivered, because there's an interesting thing that they say as well when they talk about past, present, and future I'll play it first, and then we'll have a chat about it.
We, the jury, have reached our verdict as to damages in this case. We award damages to each plaintiff and against Alex Jones and Free Speech Systems LLC as follows. Roman numeral 1, compensatory damages, instructions, fill in both numbers for each plaintiff, then go to section 2. Please enter your damages assessments for each plaintiff on the lines below. To plaintiff Robbie Parker.
Who's this guy
A,
here?
defamation/slander damages, past and future, $60 million. B, emotional distress damages, past and future, $60 million. Total fair, just, and reasonable damages to plaintiff Robert Parker and against Alex Jones and Free Speech Systems at line A and line B, total $120 million. Initial by juror number 1. To plaintiff David Wheeler. A, defamation/slander damages, past and future, $25 million. B, emotional distress damages, past and future, $30 million. Total fair, just, and reasonable damages to plaintiff David Wheeler and against Alex Jones and Free Speech Systems at line A and line B, $55 million.
And then it continues on different levels of amounts for different plaintiffs. The other thing that was interesting is they talked about past and future. I'm assuming, and it is an assumption, but I'm assuming part of the reason for that is this stuff that's out there on the internet now will never go away. Will never go away. So what he's put out there, he being Alex Jones, and he's put into the minds of his followers and let's be honest, the QAnon crew will never go away, no matter what's said, no matter how it's said, no matter what's ruled in court. People for the rest of their lives will be, believing that these people are actors and it was a false flag. So I assume that's when it comes to defamation, that'll be the future because it will never go away. And I think it's fairly obvious that your child or $120 million. I would say most everybody would pick child. But the total of all of those ones adding up to, I think it was $965 million, and then there was the 40-ish million from a few weeks ago. So it's over $1 billion that he's been sued for.
I was sitting there as I was watching the reactions of the people that were named there, obviously, and I just wonder at that point whether it's how much in their mind was it about the money, and how much of it in the mind was, I don't care what it is. I just want to hurt Alex Jones for what he's put us through, for the monstrous things that he said. It's like a computer game high score at that point, right?
Yeah, totally.
Like
and
as
look,
you said, I would rather that I never heard of Alex Jones and he never heard of me, and I still had my kid. It's not about the money.
But what it does is it also puts in place a legal procedure where he can now be gone after for money. I mean, I watched a few other things as well. There was a 24-month period where him selling his snake oil earned him $165 million US.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's not all profit and they won't be sitting in his bank, but there's no way that there's not money there with Alex Jones, be that tens of millions or hundreds of millions. But what this will be able to do is it'll be able to give these people via their lawyers and via the courts the opportunity to get into his accounts and get into his business and basically liquidate him, literally sell off his cameras. I mean, the flip side to this is then person X starts up information wars, and they hire Alex as a person, even though he's running it and he doesn't do it. And there's ways around it. But the thing is, there's a couple of things here. It's like Fox News with Dominion, the people who are doing the voting machines. As soon as they are, Rose says he's reportedly worth $230 million. That doesn't mean he's got that as cash, but yeah, good. Dominion, who do the voting machines, Fox News all of a sudden stopped talking about these voting machines stealing the election for Biden once they got served I think it's like a $2.2 billion lawsuit. It's something massive like that. So we so often hear about litigious people using the court systems to squash speech and stuff. This seems to be one of the rare occasions it's the opposite. The courts being used to hold people, companies, groups accountable for their lies and their mis and disinformation, which, I mean, you would hope if they say justice is blind, that's how it should be used, as opposed to just squashing free speech for no reason.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'd be concerned, like, he'll be trying to divest his assets and, moving around. Exactly that. Alex has been moving money around into shell companies for many years to hide the money from his ex-wife, who was the one who helped set up InfoWars to be profitable. So, yeah, I mean, there's heaps of ways that someone that was savvy or had support could try and duck out on this. And I wouldn't put it, above this slimy little rat man that he will try and duck out on this as any way he can.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like, just like Trump always doesn't pay his bills. It's that sort of, that's the world they live in. But the reality is, every dollar he earns, he himself personally earns, I think they can now garnish, meaning, each one of these plaintiffs, even if they get nothing like they've been awarded, can probably take 10 cents each from.
Yeah.
So, it does make life more difficult. Although I do think it's appropriate now that we have a look, thanks to our good mates at the Majority Report, at actually how Alex Jones responded to this, because he was watching the verdict live on his show. And if you haven't seen this, it's theatre to the utmost, as you would kind of expect. Now, apologies about the sound here a little bit, because this is actually going out live Sam Cedar show. So I'm actually showing you a clip that Sam Cedar showed, and you can hear Sam Cedar and his crew kind of talking in the background of it as well, but you'll get the gist of it. So this is Alex Jones watching the verdict being read out.
So this is going to take hours and hours to hear about the billions and billions and billions I owe. Let's put up Drudge Report right now for people. $1 billion owed by Alex Jones. I personally don't have $2 million. The company's almost completely out of money. We're in bankruptcy. There's 2 appeals. It'll take years. There's caps on almost all of this. This is just completely, absolutely made up. And now the Democratic Party run, CNN bought it years ago. Literally, I was told that. Drudge Report is just up there celebrating this.
Did you notice that? This is Alex Jones to a T. CNN, they're talking about Drudge Report. And for those of you who don't know what Drudge Report is, it is a massive right-wing outlet. Yeah. And they're talking about CNN, and Democrats are now running Drudge Report. And then he goes, so I've been told. That's Alex Jones to a T, right? So I've been told. That's actually conspiracy theorists to a T. We've done this lots of times on this show before, when we talk about conspiracy theorists are always wrong, mostly. Because as soon as you go, how do you know that? They stop. I was told. That's actually the reason he's in so much shit when it comes to finances, because he was told, whether it was the internet told him, or someone else told him, or someone in the CIA told him, or whatever it was. Someone did. Fuck, that hurt my throat. Someone did, and that's how he's got to where he has got right now. And remember what we've said: when people call hit piece, or when people call, going after me, what that normally means is they've written or said something that I don't agree with. And so they're talking about Drudge Report. He's talking about Drudge Report, a right-wing independent media outlet. Matt Drudge is the guy who runs this. This is what he said. This is all made up. Well, this is not made up, because this is the verdict that Alex Jones damages are $1 billion. So what the fuck are you talking about? It's all made up. This is the verdict that's just happened in the case that you were a defendant in. So yeah, it's all made up. We'll just have a listen to a bit more. This ranting goes on for about another 90 seconds, but you'll get the gist. And I mean, if it wasn't true life, it would be laughable. Because of course, Alex Jones has been sued for $1 billion. So it is a perfectly good time to push a pretty hard grift through to try and raise money for the $1 billion you're going to try and do it.
Absolutely.
They want to scare everybody away from freedom and scare us away from questioning Uvalde and what really happened there, or Parkland, or any other event. And guess what? We're not scared, and we're not going.
So just be clear on that. He's still talking about questioning other school shootings. That's what he just said. They're trying to scare us away from questioning Uvalde and questioning Parkland. So he's just, I mean, he's not doubling down, like saying they're false flags
What a
yet.
prick.
But his response is they're trying to stop us talking about school shootings. That's his response as the verdict for $1 billion is being read out live whilst he's doing his show.
Going away, and we're not going to stop. And literally, for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I can keep them in court for years. I can appeal this stuff. We can stand up against this travesty, against the billions of dollars they want. It's a joke. So please go to InfoWarsStore.com and get Vitamin Mineral Fusion, get X3, get all the great products,
everyone,
that are there that keep us on air at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. You want somebody to fight? We're going to get attacked for doing
Jesus
it.
Christ.
You want somebody to stand up? It's going to happen. They're going to come after us.
So you got to take every pill
It's
I
okay,
offer.
Because we're here.
All at once.
It's okay that Tim Cook runs death camps because he's gay. Remember that. So these are monsters, a dead system, things that can demonize me, the head populist, and that'll make you all go away and be scared. But you're not scared. You're going to stand up. Flood.
You're not scared. I need your bank account balance because you're not scared. You can prove you're not scared by giving me money. That proves you're not scared.
Donations at SaveInfoWars.com. Hundreds of thousands of dollars can beat their millions of Democratic Party money and all their frauds. And get products at InfoWarsStore.com like Vitamin Mineral Fusion and X3, 50% off, promo code 1776, and that will save you another 10%.
Oh my god.
10% and double Patriot points.
Another 10% and double Patriot points.
Fuck a
Infowars.com.
Patriot point. What
Actually,
am I putting in my body? Don't look at the labels.
I've just found out that having a sore throat means that I can do quite a good Alex Jones with a sore throat. Infowars.com. So bad,
It's because
actually.
of all of the vitamins that he's taking.
So there you go. It's a really interesting time because I do think about, there are a couple of outlets in New Zealand who are, like one in particular probably is the same or as bad as Infowars. But we often talk about the Broadcasting Standards Authority and how we're not a part of it because we're on the internet. We're not a mainstream broadcasting group. Other groups use that as a way to be complete fuckwits. Let's say that because we don't have any broadcasting standards and to weaponize their talk. Other groups use that to weaponize their talk, to come full circle on our conversation today. And maybe the only recourse for people who weaponize their talk is actually some kind of legal situation when they go too far. That's what's happened to Alex Jones.
Yeah. Absolute brainworms.
Yep. Hey, we got through, bro. We got through a show. What do people say? Anyone been saying anything about Mr. AJ there, Alex Jones at all?
Just Alex went on to continue to beg for money, saying that not 1 cent would go to pay for these damages, but would go towards fighting the findings.
I like what Rose says. There you go. Full circle again.
Yeah.
Alex probably has a pill for your throat. Better get shopping.
Yeah. Like what I was saying with local body political candidates. He's got a pill for your throat. It certainly doesn't say that it's going to make your throat better.
Yeah, true. Alrighty, mighty. Hey, well, we got through our beautiful hour-long show. Took an hour and a half, as we always tend to do. It's lovely to be back with you, Chewy. Is there anything else you want to mention from tonight, from going on through the week, and you think we need to cover off on?
No, I think I'm all good.
Thank you for joining us back again tonight, team. We're as I said, I miss this when it's not here. I look forward to doing more of these. I guess this will be an appropriate Infowars.com. Infowars.com. Now, if you want to get to Big Hairy News on Patreon.com, then you can just support the work we're doing, and someone's going to fight for you. You got to fight for you, and that's the way you do it. You go to Patreon.com/Big Hairy News because for hundreds of thousands of dollars will keep us out of court. And anyway, if you want to be involved,
some pills in a bathtub.
If you want to be involved, you want to be a part of what we do, you're welcome to head to patreon.com, Big Hairy News. Little as $5. And look, I said earlier in the week that there'd be an email out for patrons already and possibly a weekend get together this weekend. Obviously, you'll understand, I'm sure, that I've been unwell this week. And so there's not happening anything this weekend. But within the next 9 days. It'll either be during the week next week or next weekend. We'll do a monthly get together for people who are already patrons. If you want to be involved with that get together, it'll be virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the country. Then head to patreon.com/Big Hairy News. Membership levels are all there. And I think probably for the first get together, we'll probably do any level membership we'll get together. Because I think, I can't remember what it was. Maybe it's the $35 a month is when the live Q&A start. But probably because everyone's jumped on board early to help us out, we'll probably make the first one just open to everybody. So if you want to be involved, if you want to help support what we're doing, we appreciate it. Because we've got to get some money together so we can go to Infowars.com and get something from our throat. Infowars.com. So thanks. It's been fun, guys. I really appreciate having you with us. Chewy, thank you for joining us tonight, mate. I appreciate having you on board. And I don't think there's too much else more to say, is there? Mama says, hey, yo, on the thing. And other than that, we'll take off. I'm assuming we'll be back on Monday night, 10 p.m. For another edition of Big Hairy News. If you're a patron, I will definitely be doing an email out over this weekend. So you'll get something from me over this weekend if you're a patron. If you're not a patron, then go and have a look at us on Patreon. Remember also, follow. I'm on Twitter at Pat Britton. And Chewy, are you still on Twitter? You seem to get banned every couple of days.
For now.
Yeah. And also Facebook page as well. I think Big Hairy News on Facebook if you want to come and follow us along there. And as you can see, scrolling across the bottom of your show, daily audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. If you just search that hashtag BHN, we pop up. So we obviously, there aren't many places, podcasts and stuff that have used the hashtag B in front of their stuff. So you search for us, hashtag BHN, we pop up pretty damn quickly. And you can subscribe to our audio podcast. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, a rate and a review would be appreciated. That helps us with the algorithms and helps other people find us as well. So if you want to support us, there's Patreon. The other way you can do it is just to share our shit and tell people about us, tell people what we're doing. Like the posts, reshare any clips that we do. And we'll continue to get the word around. All right, Chew Master General, all good?
Yes.
Catch you all next week. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks, Chewy, and we will see you Monday night for another edition of Big Hairy News.